Doing something different today, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Today, we're doing something that a lot of people end up needing to do or paying to have done, and it's kind of costly, and it's a lot cheaper if you can do it yourself. We use Gopher. This is Gopher, Jamie's truck, to haul a lot of stuff, and it's important that you keep a check on it and make sure that regular maintenance gets done. And Jamie actually noticed a bird chirping noise a while ago when we were pulling that old GMC flatbed home on the end there, and we crawled underneath it and took a look, and we found out that one of the U-joints had some excessive wear going on.
So all you brand new Ford truck owners just know when your truck turns over to 100,000 miles.
Yeah, and it was right after it hit 100,000 miles. But anyway, we like to take care of Gopher because he takes care of us. And like I said, it can be costly to have your U-joints replaced. And I did just buy at an estate sale a really nice big press for literally pennies on the dollar. But like I said, it's really big and we need to haul it home, so we need Gopher to do that. So I'm going to show you how to replace your U-joints yourself. And this is going to be on a 2010 Ford F350 Super Duty. But I think it applies to probably applies to a lot of different trucks that Ford makes, and even that other manufacturers make. Basically, if you got a 77 Chevy 4-wheel drive that needs the U-joints replaced, you can use the information that I share with you in this video to get that job done too. The one thing you want to keep in mind is never to be beating on your drive shaft with a hammer. A lot of people get frustrated and they screw up that way. So no, you don't need a press in order to do a U-joint job. You just have to take your time and use the right stuff. For this job, and these tools will pretty much apply to everything except for the size of the sockets, but for this job on the Ford F350, you're going to need a 12-point 12mm socket, and it's very important that it have those 12 points on it, because 4 of the bolts, or actually because 8 of the bolts that you're going to be taking out have 12-point heads on them, and a 6-point socket will not fit on that, and those things are torqued down super tight. So you want to make sure that it's a good socket that you use for it. So you want a 12-point 12mm socket, you want a 16mm socket, and you want a 9mm socket. You also want a couple of big impact size sockets that you can use for driving the caps of the U-joints through the drive shaft.
Hey, wait a minute. Are those other sockets the 16-point, or are they just regular ones?
No, the only one that needs to be a 12-point,
oh, 12-point, okay,
is the 12mm.
Okay.
It's also might be necessary to have a good 12mm 12-point wrench. Most wrenches are 12-point though. So a big sledgehammer, some big gnarly needle nose pliers, a couple of flat blade screwdrivers. This one right here's got some spots grinded off of it. I use that for getting in little tight spots.
Dang nab.
What?
If we had our tools, I have all those O-ring Cornwell pliers that get those things out.
Yeah, these get them out pretty good too. I'll show you. And then you know, some 1/2-inch and 3/8 ratchets and extensions, and the most important tool, your favorite
Sledge-o-matic.
Sledge-o-matic. Gotta have it. So those are the tools you need.
A dog butt.
I always put my stuff in a handy dandy little carrying case so that I can move them around under the vehicle.
Good thing to note though, like my whole driveline setup's a little different than your Ford, because I'm a 2-piece.
Yeah, but
doesn't matter.
These techniques will apply to pretty much any drive shaft. There are also, not to be neglected, is your front drive shaft and the U-joints on the outer axles of your front differential. But right now we're focusing on the rear U-joints because we did identify a problem with the middle one.
You can see it, huh?
This is the one right here, and this is the one that'll require the 9mm sockets to get out. But I don't know if you can see it here. We did see some shiny spots on the inside of this one, though. Here's the thing, though. If you're going to pull the drive shaft and replace a bunch of, replace your AU joint, you might as well do all of them. Then you know that you're covered on those 3 U joints for your rear drive shaft. So.
You mean there's 3? There's not just 1?
3 U joints, because you got a carrier bearing in the middle of this one, which will have to be taken out too. The first thing you want to do is take out your drive shaft, and what I usually do on these Fords with those 12-point bolts, if I don't have an impact 12-millimeter socket, is I break them loose first before I even start taking them out. And I do that by putting my Annabella, you're not helping, come here. I do that by putting my 12-millimeter end wrench on there. Honey, you're gonna have to go lay down. I put my 12-millimeter wrench on there and just give it a little shock and break it loose. The rest of the way I take them out with the socket, but I like to break them loose with that first. I don't want to take a chance on stripping those heads. You'll go through and break loose all of them. And while you're at it, and you're using the same tools, go to the transfer case into the drive shaft and break those 4 12-millimeter bolts loose. And these can be a little tighter for some reason. I don't know why, but they are. Whoo!
They probably get pretty hot, huh?
Yeah, they do. Oh. Alright. Sometimes you got to use a bigger tool. That ain't gonna fly. Darn. I'll be right back. You might need the pipe. Whatever it takes, you just get them loose. Some of those are going to be a little hard to get to. That top one's going to be really hard to get to.
And you're going to replace these this time with some greasable ones, right?
Oh yes, while you're at it, one thing we noticed, because we do get this thing serviced, but the guy that serviced it last time couldn't lubricate the U-joints because they didn't have grease certs on them. So we're going to be installing greasable U-joints this time, and by doing that we'll be able to get a lot more than 100,000 miles out of our U-joints. If you can lube them and you keep them lubed, there's no reason why they can't last a couple 100,000 miles easily. That top one's going to be fun. And don't use Japanese tools or Chinese tools or Taiwanese tools
On a Ford that has Chinese and Taiwan parts on it.
I'm just saying, not on these bolts right here, because they require a lot of torque to get loose. Okay. Once you get all the front and all 8 of the front and rear U-joint bolts loose, get your 8mm socket and pull these straps off of the center bearing. You don't want to pull them all the way off, just loosen them up. They're a lot easier to break loose than those 12-millimeter ones are. Like I said, just loosen them up. You don't want to take this completely off because you don't want to leave the drive shaft hanging from the threads.
really see.
on the front or rear bolts. These guys right here. Just want to loosen them up. Make sure you got them broke loose real good. Then you go ahead and remove the 8 12 millimeter bolts. Now, if you have the availability of a rack or a lift to put your truck on, it will make it easier. You want to leave it in park with the e-brake on while you're braking bolts loose, but you can rotate your drive shaft so that all the bolt heads are on the bottom that way, and that does make it easier. And there are tools that will make this part easier, such as a shorter 3/8 12 point once you get them broken loose, or you could even use a 1/4 inch drive 12 point socket on these right here once you get them broke loose. But you will want to use a 1/2 inch drive to get them started.
I wonder why there's an N on that.
What?
I wonder why there's an N on the differential part.
That's just some kind of factory code that they use for identifying. You know, they got all these trucks coming down the line, and you know, some of them are 1 ton, some of them are 3/4, and some of them are 1/2 ton. So they mark the parts so they put the appropriate driveline components on the right truck. Gopher's been a good hauler. This truck has hauled a lot of stuff, a lot of miles. Good truck. Okay, once you get those 4 out, you go back up to the front and take those 4 out. This is where a short socket and a 1/4 inch drive ratchet would save you some time. So after you remove all of the 12 millimeter bolts from the front and the 12 millimeter bolts from the rear, pull your 9 millimeter bolts and straps off the center U-joint, and then you'll use your 16 millimeter to take out those 2 bolts that hold the carrier bearing on. And then it's all going to drop out. Matter of fact, before you take those ones holding the carrier bearing on out, you can go ahead and well, it's hard for me to do this without my hands. Anyway, once you get those bolts pulled out, you can grab a pry bar and put it in between the U-joint and the yoke on the center there. Give it a gentle pry. It'll pop loose. You want to try to keep your caps on there if possible. Just if for no other reason than just not to make a mess. Okay. And this is a problem. So I just pulled the caps off this center U-joint right here. This is the one that was on the top side. Show you the difference. The one on the right has no needle bearings in it. This one here on the left does still have its needle bearings in it. I guess you can't see them, but they're in there. But this one on the right is all dried up, and I would say that that's probably our little squeak right there where it's been rubbing, and you can see the shiny metal on it. So yeah, it's a good thing we pulled these off. Let me get the drive shaft. Yeah, there's no bearings left in there, and you can see where that stud was starting to wear, that the needle bearings roll on. It's all wore right there. If we'd have kept driving it like that, you can see where the other side started wearing because it was off-centered. We'll take a closer look at that when I get it out, but right now I'm going to get this rear drive shaft out, and then I'll pull the carrier bearing bolts and pull the front half out. Like I said, once you have the rear drive shaft removed, and you can see where we've been building up some real heat over here, where that one cup was missing its needle bearings. Just been getting hot, drying up, not good. This saddle, or this yoke, still feels in pretty good shape though. Not seeing anywhere where the cup was riding in there, so that's good. We'll go ahead and pull these two bolts out for the center bearing, and then we'll pull the front half of the drive shaft out. Here's the drive shaft. That'd be the back over there. This would be the center where the carrier bearing is, and here's the front. When I pulled the drive shaft apart right here, this cup fell off. And that right there, where you can see that hot spot, would be our squeak. There were no needle bearings in here. And you can see where the cup was a little bit hammered inside there.
Oh, yeah.
Also, this post right here that the needle bearings rode on is just beat to heck. You can see that.
What is that? What causes that? Pulling or
Not
drying?
being able to grease it.
Oh.
If we'd been able to grease these, all it takes is for the, you can see where this is all dry. It's completely dry. And you can see where there's been heat buildup right here. Fortunately, our yoke is still in good condition where the cap rides in it.
Okay.
But had we driven it longer, we'd had problems with this too.
Is that just normal wear and tear for what Gopher does, or from the way I drive? Be honest.
Naturally, the easier you drive a vehicle, the longer it's going to last, right? But no, I don't understand why they would make U-joints that you can't grease, because had we been able to grease these just when we're changing the oil and doing normal maintenance thing, it's something that would have taken us a couple of minutes, and these could have easily lasted twice as long. But like I said, the ones that we're putting in do have grease certs in them, so from now on when we're doing regular maintenance on the truck, we'll be able to go ahead and grease the U-joints, and we should get a lot more life out of the new ones.
And again, it did have 100,000 miles on it. So.
Yeah, and it has pulled a lot of weight, a lot of distance. So I'm going to start with the front one.
Carrier looks good.
The carrier bearing looks real good,
okay.
Yeah. You know, you want to check it, make sure it turns real smooth and doesn't make any noises. This one's in good shape. The first thing I do when I'm replacing U-joints is pull all these clips out that are in my way, and the best way to do that is take a good stout pair of needle nose pliers, pull those in like that. Sometimes you have to get your little screwdriver and wiggle it behind there.
Will the new ones come with their own clips?
They should. All the ones that I've done have always come with new clips. And I do recommend replacing the clips, because especially if it's gotten hot, as we know these have.
They get brittle and they get hot?
Well, they just don't have the same spring tension that they used to have, and they're not going to hold it in there as well as new ones would. That's what I like this little guy for. Sometimes you'll have to give them a little coaxing to get them out of there. So while I'm taking the clips out, I just go ahead and take all the clips out. It's not like the U-joints is going to fall out without them in there. Yeah, you can see that this U-joint has got really hot, and that heat spreads through all the components that are next to it. Okay, once you've got all your clips out, then you get to go make some custom blocks. And I'm going to take a break before we do that.
Okay. This is one of the reasons Rick says you should not beat on your drive shaft with a hammer. This is the sticker that was on the drive shaft. Scrap if dropped.
So we're going to start at the front. This is the yoke that bolts onto the back of the transfer case, and I've just set my gap here. So yesterday when I was driving the caps, remember when we were driving the caps out of these things right here on the block of wood, and I had to position it right on the edge of the block of the wood? What you want to do to make your life a lot easier is drill a hole in the block of wood like this. That way, when you're pounding this round cap through, it'll go down in there. It made my life a lot easier today, and shame on me for not remembering that. But a real important thing, drill yourself a hole in a block of wood to pound the caps into. It'll go much smoother. Wide enough so that the cap on the other end can go through it. Like I said, you don't want to beat on this, you don't want to beat on this. Sometimes you may find it necessary to lay a 2x4 across this part, but never lay it on the round pipe part of the drive shaft. And you find a socket that's big enough to go, that's smaller than this, but not as big as the hole.
Do you want me to hold that end?
No.
Okay.
Sometimes it takes us a second to break them loose. You just stick with it. Take your socket out of there every now and then just to make sure that it's not hitting the side of the hole. Don't get discouraged and start just banging away. This is a slow process. see it's starting to budge down in there. It's starting to come out. Once you've driven it in about as far as you think you can, and you can see that's gone about 1/8 of an inch in there past the groove where the snap ring grows. Trying to be really careful with this because you really don't want to screw any of these parts up. Once you've driven it far enough through that you can see it's free of the flange over here, put a pair of vice grips on this cap. Once you've driven it through far enough that this part isn't binded up, put some vice grips on there. Pull that cap off.
These ones were still in good shape, huh?
They were okay, but you can see where they have gotten a little bit hot. I may have to actually drive that back in here to get it the rest of the way out. In fact, I think I will.
Helps to have your very versatile yard sale workmate.
Yeah,
Man.
gotta have your workmate.
I can see it.
Oh, come on. Just about there. Once you get the yoke separated from the front U-joint, you'll have to drive that cap out. I'm just going to drive it all the way through.
Now you have to repeat that process all over again with this.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't say it was easy, but it can be done. Once you have that done, you repeat the process basically. Drive this one all the way down, flip it around, drive the other one down until you get both of those caps off.
So basically, when you buy a 2010, its parts were made in 2009.
Yeah.
So you're really getting a 2009.
Yeah, with a new grill.
Yeah, leftovers from the year before. Yay! That one seemed a lot easier.
Well, I've got more room to swing without worrying about damaging metal parts. And you do want to not just go crazy beating on stuff, because all you got to do is slip one time to damage one of these. And these are exact tolerances, these holes that these caps go in, and guys will take a hammer and just beat on this, and when you do, it's game over. Same thing, once you get it driven through there far enough where this is free, pull that cap off, get it out of your way. Sometimes you can sneak them out. Ooh, I got lucky on that one. Okay.
Left something behind.
Well, yeah, it's just a little
Leftover
washer that
chunks.
goes in the end.
Part.
Once you pull this second part out, make sure that you keep track of the U-joint, and make sure you put the caps back on the right spot, because I know this goes like this. And 9 times out of 10, your U-joint's going to have the same difference going this way as it does going this way. But sometimes they don't. So I know the first U-joint goes in like this. I'm going to lay this next to the drive shaft just like that. Go wash my hands, which is important because by the time you get this far, you got some debris on there. Jamie just went back down to the auto parts store with the 2 incorrect sized U-joints they gave us. Fortunately, they did give us 1 correct size U-joint. It's got a newfangled grease cert on it that I'm assuming is easier to put in after I get all the snap rings and everything in, so that's what I'm going to do. But like I said, fortunately they did give me 1 correct U-joint, so I can continue and get this front half of the drive shaft finished. I'll do that while she's gone. So at this point you want to pull all your caps off of your new U-joint, because you're going to be banging it around and you don't want those falling off and dislodging the needle bearings that are inside there, or getting dirt in them or anything like that. And you'll start this process by inserting 1 cap in the end of the drive shaft. Just get it in there good and snug. Slip your U-joint into position. Look at it and make sure you get it down into the needle bearings. And then you'll want to pound that cap in just a little bit. And this is where you're going to need a block. At this point you should be able to put another cap in. And you'll raise this U-joint up just a little bit to get it in there. You can go ahead and just gently tap on this cap. You don't want to get Sledge-O-Matic happy on that one. Once you have it in there where you can pick it up and feel that you're in your bearings good, Then you switch to your socket. And make sure it moves up and down smooth and turns smooth. See my little dust boots come off there. I'll go ahead and put that back on. Still moving up and down good. Now I'll tap this baby home. I tapped it in just far enough to get my snap ring in right there on the top. Use my needle nose pliers, get it into position, and I'm glad this came with new snap rings. After I put my snap rings in, I give them a few taps around the edges just to make sure it's seated good in the groove. And then you flip it over. Make sure your dust boots are on there good and everything's still moving freely. Tap the other end in. You shouldn't have to get crazy beating on that. I can see that it fits well into the groove, so I'll go ahead and install this. This is a little tight now for me to turn. I'll remedy that after I get the other side on because I don't want to beat on the surfaces of the U-joint. But the reason is I've driven the caps in a little tighter than they need to be, and what you do is you get it all assembled and you tap on the other pieces that bring those caps out a little and free that up. Next, you'll thread your U-joint through here, get another cap, stick it on the bottom, make sure it goes up into the U-joint, down like that. And I know there's fancier tools people could be using. Just getting her done. Okay. Same thing as last time. We flip it upside down. Stick another cap in there. Make sure it goes up onto the U-joint. Those are fitting pretty good. You have to have them in both of the caps a little bit before you tap it on there. Still sliding good. Now, I'm not beating on that, I'm just tapping it. I'm in there far enough where I'm comfortable driving this one down. Still moving freely. Little wiggle up and down. I'll install that snap ring. Once you get that snap ring in, flip it upside down, tap your other cap in, and I just figured out why they gave me one snap ring that was different. They gave me one snap ring that was different because that's the one that goes where the grease cert is. So I'll grab that back up. We'll put this one in over here. I do feel a little better knowing why I had one snap ring that was different, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. This snap ring is different from that snap ring because that's where the grease cert goes. So it would make more sense to have a snap ring like that that wouldn't be obstructing that hole. There we go. Okay, so now we'll put our grease cert in this hole. Hole should be threaded just right for this, and it is. Okay, so now a little tight this way, not too bad that way. Take my block, give it a tap this way, flip it over, give it a tap this way. Now it's nice this way, and nice this way. I like that. So that's one side done. Jamie's still gone getting parts, or correct parts I should say. I'll go install the front part of the drive shaft, and then we'll work on the back when she gets here. But basically I'm done with this video, because all you're going to do is the same thing that you did here on the other two ends, and one of the ends on the back is going to be easier because it just has the exposed U-joint that attaches to the back of this drive shaft with saddle straps. So I'll go put this in and I'll be back. Classic Truck Rescue, just finishing up the how to install your own U-joints video. This is day 2. We're actually supposed to be about halfway up into northern Washington right now to
And why is it day 2?
rescue a 1957 GMC truck for one of my customers. But we're on day 2 because
Napa know how to do
yeah.
nothing.
Kind of frustrated with parts people these days. Way too much reliance on the computer. First they gave me one correct U-joint out of 3. So you might remember I sent Jamie back to get some more U-joints yesterday. And they didn't have them, but they had them at one store over here and one store over there. And they had to be shipped over. And then they didn't show up today. One of them showed up. So basically what we have is 3 different kinds of U-joints, and a day later, and we are going on a rescue mission tonight. But anyway, the main thing that I wanted to accomplish was we had one bad U-joint, and I mean it was bad. I'm glad we caught it when we did, because it had no bearings in it, and this baby was messed up. And that's props for Jamie, because she knows her truck well, and when she tells me that it's making a weird noise, I'll listen to her. She heard a bird chirping, and that's the little birdie right there. But since we were going to go ahead and replace that U-joint, why not replace all 3 of the U-joints on the rear drive shaft? But the main thing I wanted to accomplish was the factory U-joints have no way that you can grease them. Nice design feature. And Jamie's truck just turned 100,000 miles. Your U-joints should last a lot longer than that. And they will if you're able to lubricate them when you lubricate your chassis. So I made sure that all the new U-joints, all 3 different kinds of U-joints that we put on, have grease certs. This is a newfangled kind of grease cert. Maybe it's been around a long time, I don't know. But this is what I like over here, because this is the kind of grease gun that I have. So if you can get these, most of us old timers got this kind of grease gun. Anyway, this should make the U-joints on the rear drive shaft of Jamie's Gopher truck last a lot longer. I mean, we do maintenance, regular maintenance on that truck, but if you don't have a way to grease a part, you can't grease it.
How often should your viewers grease these if they have?
Every time, if they're doing a lot of hauling and putting miles on their truck, like we are, I would recommend doing it with your oil change. You know?
Oh, okay.
You're down there anyways. It doesn't take that long to do it. So yeah, if you keep them lubricated, they should last hundreds of thousands of miles, I would think.
And we change our oil more often because we drive a lot.
Yes, and we want your truck to last a long time. Anyway, so I've got the rear section of the drive shaft all rebuilt, ready to go in. I put the front half of the drive shaft in yesterday. Go show them that, Jamie. And then I'll throw this in there. I'll get cleaned up. We'll hit the road and go rescue a 57 GMC, pick them up.
This means I gotta get down on my knees in the rocks.
It's got a nice little board for you to kneel on.
I'm old. There's that. Awesome. Gopher loves his daddy.
I got one more tip to share with my viewers.
What's that?
It's a pretty handy tip. I gotta confess, it's been a while since I replaced any U-joints. So yesterday, when I was driving the caps, remember when we were driving the caps out of these things right here on the block of wood, and I had to position it right on the edge of the block of the wood? What you want to do to make your life a lot easier is drill a hole in the block of wood like this. That way, when you're pounding this round cap through, it'll go down in there. It made my life a lot easier today, and shame on me for not remembering that. But a real important thing, drill yourself a hole in a block of wood to pound the caps into. It'll go much smoother.
You are better than MacGyver. Let me see the palms of your hands. That kind of does something for me.
Yeah, well, right now the shower needs to do something for me, because we're going to meet a guy named Tony, and we got to give some props to Tony, because Tony rescued a truck from the blackberry bushes. He and his wife spent 6 hours digging this truck out of the blackberry bushes. Tony realized that he's not going to get around to this project because he has a lot of other projects, and I have a customer that's been wanting a 57 GMC for a while now, and he's been patient while I look for one, and I think this is the truck for him. So we're going to go get it and check it out. My customer isn't locked into buying it, but I think he'll like it. If he doesn't want it, someone else will.
You know what? I know this, but you don't cut this out, because this is part of the Shade Tree Mechanics tutorial thing. You don't have to wear shop overalls. You can wear shorts and house slippers when you're working on
Well, that's because I'm supposed to be in the shower right now. We got to hit the road, honey.
I know.
Love you.
Love you.
Peace out.
Thank you.
Peace
Gopher
out.
thanks you. Love
You're
you.
welcome, Gopher.
Moggy thanks you. Where's Moggy?
Animal.
Tell your daddy thank you for making your truck safe for you to ride in. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
All right, let's go. Yeah, this is the bridge I was going to throw Jamie off one
Is this the
time.
one that went like this?
Yeah, they call it Galloping Gertie. This is the narrowest bridge in Tacoma. Looks like we're going to make it to this truck before it gets dark. What?
Still want to throw me off this, but you were going to throw me off a sewer bridge in Washougal too. It smelled real bad.
Have I ever thrown you off a bridge?
Not yet.
Yeah, you're all right then. Yeah, so we try to roll up before dark most of the time, but the new U-joints in Jamie's truck,
Look, no hands. They're working real good.
it's doing a lot better, isn't it? Yeah. noticeable difference in how smooth the truck is now. Yeah, it's good. Anyway, Napa know-how. For the last 2 days, I've been saying Napa, no, how?
Anyways,
Right?
CarQuest came through.
Yeah. Anyhow, Classic Truck Rescue will be back when we roll up on this 57 GMC pickup.